In the grand theatre of existence, where do we truly find contentment? Is it in the dazzling brilliance of a life lived under 1,000 admiring gazes, a life of unparalleled utility and esteemed purpose, where every facet gleams with hard-won achievement? Or does true peace reside in the quiet, unassuming shadows, a life untroubled by the demands of greatness, untainted by the relentless scrutiny that accompanies every step in the grand arena? Does the weight of expectation, the very purpose that defines one's perceived value, ultimately become a gilded cage, while freedom whispers in the forgotten corners, camouflaged by its very lack of ostentation? When does the blessing of being needed transform into the curse of being taken? This is the paradox of prominence, the silent pact between usefulness and vulnerability. Long ago, in a realm woven from starlight and ancient earth, stood the magnificent Glass Citadel, an architectural marvel whose walls shimmered with crystalline light, reaching skyward as if to embrace the celestial spheres. Its foundations were built from the clearest, most resilient quartz, its soaring spires sculpted from polished obsidian, each surface reflecting the world in 1,000 fractured rainbows. The citadel was the heart of the realm, the nexus of all knowledge, protection, and governance. Artisans flocked to its radiant chambers, scholars penned their sagas within its luminescent libraries, and its very existence promised stability and progress. It was a beacon, a monument to human ingenuity and communal endeavor, constantly lauded, perpetually utilized. The citadel, in its silent, majestic way, exuded an almost conscious arrogance, reflecting its own grandeur back upon itself through its myriad facets. At the fringes of this bustling, enlightened kingdom, nestled along the banks of the somber, slow-moving river Lethe, grew a scattering of whispering willows. These were not the grand, weeping giants of myth, but rather stunted, gnarled saplings, their bark rough and mottled, their slender branches trailing almost imperceptibly into the murky waters. They served no grand purpose. Their wood was too soft for construction, their leaves too bitter for sustenance. They offered meager shade, and their roots were a mere tangle in the riverbank, holding back only the gentlest erosion. Travelers paid them no heed, city planners considered them irrelevant, and even the local fauna found little use for their sparse offerings. Their humility was inherent, their existence defined by their very unimportance. One day, the Glass Citadel, reflecting a particularly vibrant sunset, seemed to pulse with an almost living pride. A stray thought, like a gust of wind, swept through its crystalline form, reaching out to the humble willows. Look at me, its silent grandeur seemed to proclaim. I hold empires together. I shelter generations. I am the very definition of purpose. What are you? A cluster of sticks beside a forgotten river, serving no one, admired by none. The oldest of the whispering willows, whose roots had seen centuries of river flow, rustled its sparse leaves. A soft, almost imperceptible sigh emanated from its fibrous core. Your brilliance is undeniable, Citadel, it seemed to whisper back, its voice barely a tremor in the air. Your utility is profound. But with such prominence comes a constant demand. Every storm, every tremor, every shifting political tide will test your foundations. Every ambitious ruler will seek to control your chambers, every desperate populace will demand your shelter. You are admired, yes, but also coveted. You are useful, but therefore, always vulnerable. Years passed. A great blight swept the land, a creeping shadow that sought to dismantle order and stability. The blight was an entity of pure consumption, drawn to light, to structure, to all that was grand and vital. It sensed the immense energy and purpose radiating from the Glass Citadel. Armies were mustered, wards were cast, but the blight, relentless and insidious, saw the citadel not as a protector, but as a vast, invaluable resource to be absorbed. It launched itself against the shimmering walls, its tendrils seeking every fault line, every crack, every point of entry. The citadel, built for glory, now bore the crushing weight of its own existence, fighting desperately against an enemy drawn by its very significance. Its purpose had become its greatest liability. Meanwhile, the blight passed over the Whispering Willows almost without notice. They were too small, too unremarkable, too lacking in any significant energy or purpose to warrant the blight's destructive attention. They continued their quiet existence, their roots gently holding the riverbank, their leaves rustling forgotten melodies in the soft breeze, untouched by the cataclysm consuming the realm's greatest marvel. They were not celebrated, but they were safe. Their humility was their shield. This narrative, stripped of its fantastical elements, mirrors a profound human truth, the often unseen burden of prominence and the subtle strength of obscurity. In our relentless pursuit of success, recognition, and utility, we often overlook the peace that comes from a less demanding existence. We chase titles, wealth, and influence, believing these to be pinnacles of achievement, only to find them accompanied by immense pressure, scrutiny, and vulnerability to external forces. The Glass Citadel represents the public persona, the high achiever, constantly striving and constantly exposed, while the Whispering Willows embody the quiet contentment found in simplicity, in being unburdened by expectations. It challenges us to reconsider whether the rewards of a grand life truly outweigh the quiet dignity and safety of an unpretentious one, reminding us that sometimes, the greatest freedom lies in not being sought after. Thus, Filiarium unveils the quiet wisdom, the weight of golden crowns often eclipses the joy of a simple life. For true peace is not always found in being celebrated, but in being undisturbed. Some treasures are best kept in the shadows, where the blight of covetousness cannot find them. In humility, there is an unmatched resilience.